Hi there, my name is Taiwo. This is New Creation Life. Amen. I just want to speak today about the subject of prayer. And I'm going to take a text from Luke chapter 18. And there's a parable there that the Lord Jesus gave. And I'm guessing that you're probably familiar with this particular parable. So if you look at Luke chapter 18 and in verse 1, here it says here, I'm reading from the King James. It says, he spoke a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint. That's verse 1. In verse 2 it says, so this is the parable. There was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. So in other words, we have a wicked man here, a wicked, unrighteous judge here in this particular city. It says, there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him saying, avenge me of mine adversary. Verse 4, and he would not do it for a while, but afterward he said within himself, though I do not fear God, though I do not regard man. That's what he said. This guy, this judge is an unrighteous, let's say wicked person, godless person. I do not fear God, I do not regard man. Yet because this widow troubles me, I will avenge her. In other words, I will answer her prayer. I will do what she wants me to do. I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming, she wears me out, or she weary me. The Lord said, hear what the unjust judge said. Now, let's pause here. So the Lord is placing emphasis here on what this man, this unjust, wicked, unrighteous man has said. Okay? He said, the Lord said, hear what in other words, take note. Did you hear what the unjust judge said? Listen to what the unjust judge said. So what did the unjust judge say? The unjust judge said, though I do not fear God, I do not regard man. Yet because this widow troubles me, I will answer her what she wants me to do. I will do for her what she wants me to do, because by her continual coming, she's going to wear me out. So the only reason why this unrighteous judge, this unrighteous, evil, wicked man will answer that question for that widow it was not because it was nice, it was not because he was doing his job, it was because this woman is a pain. He totally already ignored her, but she just kept coming and coming and coming, and it's just like at the end of the day, too much noise. This woman is killing me. This is just too much noise. I can't stand the noise every day. I imagine that this woman will have come to the judge's office and stood there all day knocking on the door. Maybe she put up a placard and say, help me, avenge me of my adversary. The judge ignored her for the longest time, and finally he said, look, I'm tired. Let this woman, I don't want to see this woman again. So they probably will have called the woman in and said, what do you want? And the woman will have told him and said, take whatever you want. This is the answer to what you want me to do. Never come back again. I don't ever want to see you again, kind of thing. So what's the point? Of this? The Lord is saying that this wicked judge finally answered the prayer or the request of this widow. A wicked judge finally did it. Not because he wanted to do it, not out of the goodness of his heart, not because he was doing his duty, but because the woman was too noisy. When he was tired, she was wearing him out. He was tired. And now the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge said. Verse 7, shall not God avenge his own elect, his own children, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? So what the Lord Jesus is doing here is that he is not comparing the judge to God. Because the next thing he says here, and shall not God. It is not a comparison. I think most of the time, a lot of people have read this parable and they have said that we should do what that woman did, what the widow did. We should come to God and ask and ask and ask and ask and pray and pray and pray and pray and pray and pray and ask and ask and ask. Finally, God will now answer our prayer because of our importunity, because we refuse to go away, because we stay there and pray and pray and pray and pray, just like this woman. And then finally, God will now say, okay, I will answer your prayer. That's the way a lot of us have interpreted this parable. But it's the exact opposite. The Lord Jesus is actually saying, God is not like that. In other words, look at it this way. The judge was unrighteous. The judge was wicked. The judge was bad. The only reason he answered that prayer, the woman's request, was because he was tired of her. God, the Lord Jesus is saying here, God is not like that. God will answer your prayer the moment you ask him. God will not wait for you to ask and 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 pray and pray and pray and pray and pray before he answers your prayer. That's the point. He says, shall not God here avenge his own elect, which cry unto him day and night, which cry day and night unto him, though he bears long with them? Look at verse 8. I tell you, he will avenge them how? Speedily. In other words, in a good God, a God who is willing to take care of you, who is willing to answer your prayer, will not wait for you to ask and ask and ask and ask. That the woman, this widow, had to ask and ask and ask and ask was because the judge was wicked. That's the reason she had to ask again and again and again and again. It was because she was dealing with a wicked man, an unrighteous man, who did not fear God, who did not care for man. The judge himself said it, I don't fear God. So if somebody who did not fear God, somebody who does not fear God, did not fear God, if they will finally answer the prayer of a woman just because she was importunate, just because she will not go away, how much more a God that is good, that is willing, that is loving and kind, how much more will he quickly answer our prayer? That's the point of this parable. I hope you see it. Look at verse 8 again. I tell you, he will avenge them. Let's put it this way. He will answer their prayer speedily. How? Speedily, quickly. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, shall he find faith on the earth? In other words, he is not saying there won't be Christians on the earth. He's not saying that Christians will have backslidden when the Son of Man comes back. He's saying that when the Son of Man comes back, will people see God in that light? How will people, what will be the perception of God's goodness and God's love that people will have at that time? You know, that's what it's saying. Let me back up a bit. Let's go to verse 7. Look at what it says here. And I think this is one of the places where a lot of people get confused. Look at it, verse 7. Shall not God avenge his elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bears long with them? Though he bear long with them. So a lot of people, some people will say, oh, well, see, it says here, God may bear long with them. But that's not what it really is saying. Particularly if you look at it in the context of that parable, that cannot be what he's saying. Let me read to you what some other versions or translations, how they have rendered that part of that verse, of verse 7. Look at it. The New American Standard Version says, will he delay long over them? Will he delay? Will he delay long over them? So another one says, and I think it's the English Standard Version, it says, will he continue to defer their help? Will he not answer their prayer immediately? That's what it's saying. Another one says, the Berean Study Bible says, will he be slow to help them? See, so what I'm saying is, where the King James says, though he bear long with them, other versions say, the Berean Bible says, will he be slow to help them? That is one. The Good News Bible says, is he slow to help them? Another one says, the NLT and the NIV, they say, will he keep putting them off? I hope you see it. So the point of this parable is not that we need to pray and pray and pray and pray before God can answer our prayer. It's not that we have to come to him again and again and again and again and again and again before he finally answers our prayer. What the Lord Jesus really is addressing here is God's goodness. This parable is not about the woman. It's not about the judge. This parable is really about our perception of God's goodness. And when we come to prayer, we have to approach prayer believing that God will answer our prayer. And not just that God will answer our prayer, that God is glad, willing to answer our prayer immediately.